Example 4.7. In this example, we have a fluid that is flowing from a fire extinguisher tank. We need to discuss the difference between the rate of change of the quantity B, so like extensive property B, in the system, and compare it to the one how it changes in the control volume. And in this case, we take B to be the mass. Okay, so basically what we are trying to evaluate, we're trying to evaluate how the change of the mass changes in the system, compare how the change in the mass is the control volume. Okay, so the first thing that we have to identify, it is what is the system and what is the control volume. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the system to be the actual fluid. Okay, and we're gonna take the control volume to be the tank, the tank at time equal to 0. So the fluid at time equal to 0. So the space that is occupied by the fluid at time equal to 0. Okay, so basically, if you notice, this is gonna be your control volume. Okay, so now let's analyze what happens to the fluid in terms of the system. So if we open the valve, okay, we basically follow the system is going to be the fluid. So we have some of the fluid is going to be exiting, and some of it is going outside, and some of it stays in the tank. But at the end, the change of the mass is going to be whatever left the tank and whatever stayed. And the addition of those two is going to be the same, so the mass will not change. Therefore, the change of the mass in the system as a function of time, it is going to be 0. Okay? Why? Because the fluid, the amount of the fluid is not lost. It simply displaced from one location to the other one. So it goes from the tank and goes from outside, but the actual fluid, whatever is outside and whatever is inside, the addition of it should be equal to the amount that it was originally in the tank. However, if we now evaluate the volume and we let this fluid out and we only see what happens inside of the tank, the amount of the mass is going to reduce as a function of time. So the mass is going to basically escape, but since we only care what happens on the tank, the overall change of the mass inside of the control volume is negative. Therefore, the change of the mass inside of the control volume is going to be negative. Okay, and basically the idea is, and we have always said, conservation of mass, meaning that the mass cannot be destroyed or created, and it makes it and the change of the mass is equal to 0. That is true for a system. However, once we have a control volume, that changes.